I'm Steve Turano with Ask a Real Expert. People are still confused about how we can possibly build muscle on a calorie deficit. So guys are asking, Steve, I want to lose some fat, but I also want to build muscle. How is this possible? Everybody out there is telling me that I have to have a calorie surplus to build muscle. Well, this is where the problems occur with bodybuilding and people giving advice. They don't take into consideration that most people are at different stages of conditioning and training. So you can't just offer a blanket statement to everybody. Remember, the diagnosis for somebody who has a cold that's 10 is different than somebody who has a diagnosis who's 40 and who's 80. The treatment's different. So you got to remember, you have to adjust it based on your audience. So let me see if I can give you a scenario of a guy who's 20 pounds overweight, wants to start lifting, but also wants to lose body fat, and run him through the scenario of being out of shape to being in great shape. So the guy eats 2,000 calories a day, and we'll keep it simple so I can track it in my head. We put him on a 500 calorie a day deficit, so he's eating 1,500 calories a day, and he's working out. Great, we have a deficit. How is this guy building muscle? You got to remember, you don't need a ton of extra calories to build muscle in somebody who's just started, because they're not training very hard. And either way, you don't need thousands of extra calories to build a few ounces of muscle. So as this person is lifting, the additional food they're eating, or the food they're eating, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, goes to fuel their workouts and, more importantly, build muscle, because they're eating protein. And then any additional energy they need comes from the body fat that they have. That's where the calorie deficit comes in. That extra body fat is being used as energy. It's just like the food you're eating. So after 3 or 4 months, this person says, wow, I have had some great results. I've lost some body fat, I've built some muscle, my strength has increased, but now I noticed my fat loss has slowed a little bit. What's happening is this person's gotten bigger, stronger, and they probably need some additional calories because they're training harder, and now because they're more muscular. Their body composition is changing. So let's say we change their calorie deficit from 500 down to 200. So now they're eating 1,800 calories. Great. They continue to lift. They notice they're building more muscle. They're still losing weight, but at a slower rate, or body fat at a slower rate. But now they have additional energy, and they've packed on some additional size and strength. Now, after 6 months of training, 6 to 8 months, the person has the same problem. Hey, Steve, my body fat level has leveled off, but I'm happy with it. But now I want to build additional muscle. What do I do now? Well, now it's time to look at our training. We want to begin to train harder, more consistently, more intelligently, and we may need to up our calories. Significantly? No. Bring it back to 2,000 calories a day, the amount of calories that person was eating originally. But you see, after 6 or 8 months of training, their body composition has changed, along with their activity levels and their recovery levels. So now that 2,000 calories that the person used to eat, that makes them fat, because remember, weight gain is just the gradual accumulation of a few extra calories on a daily basis. Now that 2,000 calories is enough to keep this person with enough energy to work out and recover. So now they train for another 3 or 4 or 5 months. And again, they notice, wow, my strength has increased, but now it's leveled off. My size has gone up, but I'm not getting any bigger in the last, 2 months. What's going on? Now we need some additional calories. Now this is where guys begin to get confused. They're thinking, wow, time to start shoving down 1,000 extra calories a day in shakes. Well, that's definitely going to be a bulking phase, and you'll end up being fat. You'll end up being stronger, but you'll end up being fat. So you'll be like the guy was originally on the 2,000 calorie a day diet. Fat, and you'll be more muscular, but you'll be fat. Not a good look. So what we do is we increase our calorie intake gradually. Not 1,000 calories a day, we go to 2,200 or 2,300. That additional surplus of calories is more than enough to fuel our workouts, fuel our recovery, and fuel our muscle growth. So instead of going crazy with shoving all this additional protein, carbs, and fats, protein shakes, and all that stuff, you just increase your calorie intake gradually. So your body becomes accustomed to the 2,300 calories. So your lifting increases to the point where you're able to utilize that additional 300 calories and none of it is left to make you fat. Again, you'll notice that as you gain additional weight, you gain some additional poundage. Wow, I'm great. Same thing occurs. The weight gain slows, the strength slows, the muscle growth slows. Time to increase the calories again. Not to 3,000, but to 2,500, an additional 200 calories. Because you got to remember this, the body, like every other machine on the planet, is not 100% efficient. So the more calories you eat, the more are available to build muscle, but there are also more available calories that are going to be unused that will be stored as fat. So if we can gradually increase our caloric intake to match our body's composition and our body's performance, that is how we're able to build muscle, decrease our body fat levels, and eventually build additional muscle while not significantly increasing our body fat levels. So you got to remember that the body does need calories to build muscle, but it doesn't need a crazy surplus to build calories. A gradual surplus will do it. And when you have a calorie deficit, you still are able to build muscle and lose body fat because of the additional proteins you're eating and the additional energy that is coming from body fat. So I hope that clears things up a little bit. I'm Steve Turano. Train smart, train hard.